Hi, Sachin.
Hey, good morning.
So Sachin, since we last talked, which has been a while due to various reasons, we had covered developer productivity and best way to measure uh, output of a developer and how it affects the outcome, right? And we had suggested that we stay away from some dysfunctional metrics like um, velocity, so on and so forth. And what we had done was we have this point of view on engineering excellence leading to business outcome model, which we think applies to a team. And we said that, hey, a subset of it can apply to a developer. And let me quickly share my screen. This is the ThoughtWorks Insight article that you wrote. And I think we have a summary of it here. And what we have been talking about and advocating is these 7 metrics as a better or an extended version over just the 4 key metrics of DevOps. Because in our opinion, I mean, we have done this and I'll kind of just leave it at this. And we realize that these are for a team. And we have heard a lot of feedback from various engineering managers we talk to, various engineering leadership we talk to, and say that, hey, and one of the feedback that really got me thinking is that, hey, we understand that, measuring a developer's output is a very it's an activity that can go in various wrong directions and not lead to any positive outcome, and not really lead to any development of a developer, or may need to lead to a better outcome for the organization. But in absence of those, give me alternatives, right? And unless I don't know where the developer is doing well, where the developer is not doing well, how can I help that individual developer, right? So don't always assume bad intentions when someone is trying to measure a developer.
True.
So with that in mind, I mean, we've all heard the stories, tools that measure how many times screen saver goes off in your machine, how many times your laptop is moving. I mean, those things exist. And while we don't want to attribute ill intention, but knowingly, unknowingly, these things do creep up.
Yeah.
And and quick recap, the reason we kind of I went on this journey and joined you was that when I objected about this kind of tools to see a head of IT of a large bank, the response I got from her was that, okay, if you don't like these, give me something better, right? And that's kind of started us on this journey. So now that we are on this journey, we know that we feel these make sense for a team. What can we propose which makes sense to developer? And the ones that you discussed last time were security warnings. How many security warnings a developer's code is introducing is a good thing to monitor, take debt, and lead time. Sounded good. But then in past couple of weeks, I've got a lot of feedback saying that maybe lead time is not the best measure of an outcome of a developer, because not everything in lead time is in control of an individual developer. So I wanted to spend some time here. So can you go back, recall lead time? And as the standard definition exists, what was going in your mind when you suggested lead time, and let's take it from there.
Absolutely, Dinkar. So think about lead time as, by the way, these 4 key metrics are software delivery performance metrics. What do we mean by that is how your team is actually delivering software. And there are a few characteristics which it measures. Example is how fast the code is going to production, how frequently it is going to production, what is the impact of the code going to production in terms of, is it causing any failures or degradation into the systems? And even if, let's say, you had some degradations, how quickly you are able to recover from that. So that is typically how software delivery performance is measured. The reason why I believe lead time is a good metric for individuals as well is very simple. Lead time for a team is about how many, like you could be sending, like, let's say 50 or 100 commits every time you go to production. And then what is the average time or life of that each commit from once it is created into the Git repository to going to production. So you take an average of it, and that's your typically lead time for a particular time interval. Now, in
Sachin, sorry to interrupt. I want to call out one thing, and this is also something we have been hearing: the business lead time versus the lead time as defined here, right? So the business lead time kind of is since a business made a request, and then when that request actually went into the production, so the business can actually start using it. And I think a lot of people are focused on that also, because that also kind of takes even larger point of view of not just the IT, but also business compliance and everything. So I think one thing I want to clarify is we are not referring to business lead time here. We are focused on the technical definition of lead time.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it technical definition, but you're right. It is a subset. We are talking only about software delivery lead time, not actually the feature lead time. And
Right.
you precisely pointed out when you are thinking about larger context of when the idea was created, put it into some sort of like tracking systems like Jira or something else, and then curated, you narrowed the scope down, started development, and then took it into production. That's much larger interval. Although what lead time we are talking about of software delivery is a subset of that business lead time. But you can actually choose to track it differently. And now coming back to the software delivery lead time, in isolation, the criticism is absolutely right. That individual does not control all the factors which affect lead time. So what if I am part of a team and the team does not have automated path to production? You're absolutely right. I don't control when the code goes to production. There is let's say a cloud ops team which comes into picture, or there is a release management team. They come into picture, they merge all the code, they make sure that everything is right. There is a manual testing process, and then they push that code into production. Yes, obviously the lead time would be higher because I don't control that. But the question which I want to ask is, that will be constant for your team as well. So whatever everybody does not control is constant for everyone. So if I have 10 developers in my team, all of them are affected by exactly same drag. It could be those type of things. And we are always proponents of not absolute numbers, but trend lines.
Right. So the baseline kind of takes care of, the underlying inefficiencies of the pipeline in general.
And statistical methods have addressed this at large. In various places. There are methods in which you can actually normalize, you can identify a cohort in which these developers fall in. There are some people who are constantly pushing code on a consistent basis in shorter time compared to the other cohorts. And those are the people. And Dinkar, you and I have talked this to ad nauseum, that we do not intend to consume these numbers in isolation.
Right.
These are not your like scorecards. These are not your GPAs. You should actually contextualize this in reality. So if I'm looking at these numbers and I identify 4 cohorts,
Sorry,
cohort,
Sachin, GPA cards, not GPS card.
Oh, GPA. Did I say GPS?
Yeah, you said GPS, I think.
Oh my God. Okay. So GPAs. So when you are talking about those grade point averages, those are different. But here, what we intend to do is have those 4 cohorts and you compare them. Okay, why this cohort is always outperforming to the other ones. And that conversation is far more important to me rather than the absolute number itself. In fact, I don't even worry about if somebody actually has 2 days more lead time than the other ones.
Right.
It could be also possible, Dinkar, that there is a group of people who are actually pushing code faster. Their lead time is lower, but they are actually introducing more bugs.
Right.
So it is.
That's where the tech debt and security warning, like all three needs to be kind of put together, rather than saying that, developer A has got the best lead time and gets a, Amazon certificate, and developer B has least. It cannot be just these. It's have to be in a unison.
Absolutely. So you need to contextualize that, analyze it, figure out whether this is making sense or not. And obviously, if certain developers are actually pushing code recklessly into production, then there is also a good chance that your mean time to restore, change field percentage will also start showing that trend is affecting. The reason why we are not contextualizing mean time to restore and change field percentage to individuals is because there are multiple factors which could cause that, and a more deeper thorough analysis is required. So that's why I still believe lead time, if you contextualize that relative to your team, that is extremely valuable individual metric. But if you are thinking about putting lead time the same way you put it for a team, only one line which is going wiggly line, then it may be misrepresenting data.
Right.
But if you actually say, hey, here is an average, here is the lowest cohort, here is the highest performing cohort, and here is your developer.
Right.
Now, that gives you a frame of reference that, okay, there is a cohort which is, and we can actually do this in percentiles. There is 75th percentile, 50th percentile, and 25th percentile of these basically lead times. And you can put an average, and you can put this developer in context to that. And once you see it, you realize, is this person beating 75th percentile consistently? Is this person actually between 75th and 50th? Or is this person between 50th and 25th? Now,
so this is, sorry, so this is probably where helping a developer kind of comes into picture. And, I don't think we have talked a little bit much about ThoughtWorks Polaris, the tool that you and I have developed for this purpose. And it has an aspect of remediation where, the tool also suggests what kind of conversations to have with the team, with the developer, to help if metric is not performing very well. And I think this is a place where an engineering manager, has a conversation with the individual developer and say that, hey, these are what your metrics are showing me. These are possible remediations we can do, and try to understand what's going on, and how to help an individual developer.
That's precisely what is expected. You should not try to just look at these numbers and conclude and pass on a judgment that this person is not performing. What if the person is actually taking time to perform certain things, and that is causing them delay? Or they have a habit of putting all the code onto a feature branch and then bringing only when they are almost like 90% ready into the main branch. That's just a small tweak of behavior you can change to quickly improve your metrics.
There's one more, sorry, Sachin, sorry, I'm interrupting you a lot, right? But there's one more scenario we have seen is where in a lot of, large enterprises, there are a set of developers who kind of, because of their seniority and experience, pick up the most complex problems, while as the junior and the newcomers kind of pick up the, less complex problem. That can also lead to this. And that's where I think the context becomes very important, and not looking at this in isolation becomes very important.
That's a very interesting point. I never thought about it. But in reality, Dinkar, that shouldn't matter much. If, let's say, an experienced developer is picking up a very complex feature, the philosophy of software delivery high delivery performance would be is you continue to push code into production, even if it is in development stage today. as long as you are not breaking the overall build. So there are methods available where you do feature toggles, or you are just not calling that code yet. It is not reachable in the standard production flow.
Right.
So there are methods available. So people who are experienced, they should be able to take advantage of all these methods, tools, techniques, so that they can continue to push code to production. Yes. In this case, your business lead time will be massive because the feature was
Right.
complex.
Yes. Yes.
So that is completely understood. But in terms of software delivery lead time, if these people are worth their salt, it shouldn't matter much.
Okay, I hear you. Makes sense. So a quick recap, Sachin. If you look at it in isolation, yes, on the first blush, it seems like lead time may not be the best metric. But we have always been talking about looking at things. I don't like the word holistic, looking at things in a context, right? And that's where the importance of lead time as an indicator of an individual's outcome becomes very important. And as usual, right, the purpose of having these metrics is to help someone improve, deliver better code and deliver, business outcome faster. And this is with the remediations handbook or any other methodology of helping a developer, getting them trainings, more, peer-to-peer learning, these can be improved. So as a summary, then I think that, can I say that you stand by your opinion that lead time is a very good developer outcome metric?
Yeah, definitely better than measuring number of commits per week. Because that does not indicate what am I doing, how well it is. At least now I know that, okay, I made a lot of code commits, that is contribution is taken care of, plus it is also going to production. And Dinkar, there are statistical methods which you can use to address all these concerns. So you can also say that what if, let's say, Sachin is so sure and he is very defensive, and Sachin wants to commit only code which is easy to go to production so that his number is pristine. Then in that situation, I may be adding one more dimension to my measurement, is how many commits. So what is the sample size which I'm talking about? Is it like 50 commits, 100 commits? I can actually take a time interval. There are like various ways in which you can address that. So people can identify these problems and contextualize this in a very fair manner without any ostracizing one person out of the team.
And Sachin, I think this lays foundation for the next podcast we should have. We have been talking about asset-based consulting. And I think one of the things an organization can do to have a uniform outlook on these numbers and apply this uniform or similar statistical analysis on top of it. So there is that kind of baseline which is happening. I think it's very important that the things you said, right? There are tools available, there are methodologies available. Maybe they need to encode them in some form, in whatever tool, maybe it's a Google Sheet or an Excel sheet, or maybe someone creates something very complex and scalable depending upon the size of the team that they have to manage. And I think, that's primarily where ThoughtWorks Polaris is also kind of useful, though, not everyone may have access to it. But what I was thinking is maybe in the next podcast, we can go back to asset-based consulting assets and kind of take this as an example and see how we can help other organizations or others who are listening to these podcasts take this as an example and probably envision an asset and build something which is across the organization, establishes a common approach and is systemized. So there is least amount of manual thing going on. So there's a much more consistent way of looking at developers.
Yeah, absolutely. We should do that.
Yeah. This was a short one. I think one of the feedbacks we got was that it gets a little long, keep it short. So we'll see how short we can keep these. Definitely, we are not aiming for YouTube shorts, and we are aiming for these discussions to be thorough and kind of discuss it out like usually you and I do.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it might be short, sometimes it might be long, but we'll see. That's all for today. Thanks, Sachin, for your time.
Thank you so much, Dinkar.
I like
Bye.
your show, though.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah.